nose program.
I mean, that's pretty loud from the people of Texas. And watch this moment from a town hall in Kansas where constituents pressed Senator Roger Marshall so forcefully that he literally just got up and walked out.
We don't have time for everyone to stand up. I do got 2 more commitments today. Appreciate everybody making the drive out, and God bless America. Thank you.
Any president would struggle to recover from the considerable series of challenges, controversies, and errors that Donald Trump has faced. However, his situation is notably worsened by the actions of those around him, along with his own conduct. Specifically, I'm referring to his press secretary, Karoline Leavitt, who became so infuriated by the scandals and failures of the Trump administration in recent weeks that she started lashing out at reporters. The most troubling part was that she only just realized how dire things were for Trump. It was almost laughable. A full meltdown took place. We'll cover all of it. But before we dive in, please take a moment to like this video, and if you haven't subscribed yet, consider hitting the subscribe button if you enjoy our channel. It truly helps and means a lot. Now, let's take a look at the first video of Karoline Leavitt being confronted.
Officials here were miffed that Zelensky showed up last week without a suit for his meeting in the Oval Office. But Elon Musk never wears a suit.
He did last night.
So what is the dress code?
Well, Elon Musk wore a suit last night. I'm sure you saw it.
He's spooked by Zelensky. Zelensky getting kicked out?
No, I don't think so. I'm just pointing out that he did wear a suit last night. And I think the president liked that very much.
The hypocrisy surrounding the Zelensky suit debate is so glaring that I'm honestly glad Peter brought it up. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I made a video on the topic. Republicans were outraged. They have no issue with Elon Musk acting like a complete fool, but they criticize President Zelensky, whose country is at war, for not wearing a suit. There's no reasoning behind it. It's just ridiculous. I keep revisiting the Republicans' assertions that Zelensky was disrespectful in the Oval Office and spoke out of turn, yet they can't provide a single example of what he actually did. So, is their issue really just about his clothing? Are they genuinely that insecure? How much of a snowflake can they be? They are obviously that insecure and clearly upset. Here, we see Karoline Leavitt snapping at a reporter.
That's less than a carry-on suitcase. Is that a lot of fentanyl compared to, say, Mexico? The vast majority of the fentanyl is brought in through Mexico, not Canada. So what else does Canada need to do?
Well, I just told you, last year alone, there was a 2,000% increase in illegal fentanyl. You're asking me for what the president's justification is for these tariffs. It's not up to you. You're not the president, Gabe. And frankly, I think it's a little bit disrespectful to the families in this country who have lost loved ones at the hands of this deadly poison. If you talk to them, and this president has, they are grateful that they finally have a president who is standing up to both Canada and Mexico, and most importantly, to China as well. The president added an additional 10% tariff on China because this deadly poison is being produced in that country. It's being distributed through our neighbors, and there needs to be consequences for that.
I believe we have the right to ask questions, even though we know the reporter isn't the president. Isn't that the essence of a free press? I understand that you're not a fan of the free press, Karoline, but it's their responsibility to inquire. And it's clear that things are truly falling apart for Donald Trump, especially with the absurd trade war he's causing, which we'll discuss shortly. After all, Trump made a campaign promise to do the exact opposite. I believe the media has every right to question why he's raising prices through this trade war. However, as we can see now, they are being forced to create all these distractions.
It continues to call the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, Governor of Canada. I'm curious what he means by that, and if there are any plans that are moving forward with trying to make Canada the 51st state. And I have a follow-up on the economy as well.
Sure. Well, the president put that in his True Social account, or his True Social post earlier today. He feels strongly that it would be very beneficial for the Canadian people to be the 51st state of the United States. tariffs. They wouldn't be paying for these tariffs. They'd have much lower taxes if they were part of our great country.
Why do we keep engaging in this? It's incredibly silly. It's utterly pointless. But once again, it's simply a tactic to distract Trudeau, the governor of the 51st state. Nobody cares. At this stage, eggs are priced at roughly $112, and the continuous tariffs, which I said we would investigate, are just exacerbating the situation across all other sectors. Furthermore, we're shedding hundreds of thousands of jobs because of the economic slump, the looming recession, Elon's indiscriminate layoffs, and yes, the situation is far from ideal. This is something Carolyn Levitt openly admitted right here on WeChat.
Thank you, Caroline. Back on tariffs, last night President Trump said there will be a little disturbance, but we're okay with that. Can you put a dollar figure amount on how much the average American family should expect to pay as this disturbance? And why should Americans be okay with that when so many are already struggling to pay the bills?
Well, first of all, last night, the president told the truth, and he was realistic, and he level set with the American people. And I think, frankly, it's very refreshing, and everybody in this room should be very grateful that we have a president who tells the truth about the reality of the economic situation that we are in, unlike the previous president who lied to everybody's faces, saying inflation was transitory, saying it was under control, saying that the border was secure, when none of that was true. So the president is being frank and honest, and the American people elected this president to have monumental reform and change, including rebuilding our manufacturing base in this country, standing up to foreign nations who have been ripping off our country for decades, and that requires a little bit of disruption. That requires a lot of effort and work that this president is focused on doing. With that said, as the president said last night, his administration is wholeheartedly committed, of course, to ending the inflation nightmare caused by the Biden administration. Look at the
It's finally been recognized. They've admitted it. While tariffs will harm us, they couldn't care less. A $10 egg doesn't seem like a crisis if you're a billionaire. It certainly is for an average person, but they don't care. This government isn't concerned with that. Once again, this is completely contrary to the platform they campaigned on. Massive reductions to vital government programs that ensure people are fed, housed, and alive. That is the real aim of this administration. Promises remain unfulfilled. And changing the name of a body of water to provoke the left doesn't mean you're fulfilling your imagined mandate. The suffering is already being experienced by the public. Listen to that acknowledgement once again here in the press room.
The president mentioned a little disturbance during his remarks yesterday. The CEO of Target says that consumers will likely see prices go up on everything from strawberries to bananas to avocados. How long should Americans expect to pay higher prices? Are we talking a week, a couple of days, a few months?
Again, I don't have a crystal ball, but what I can assure the American people is that this president and this administration is doing everything they can. And I would remind you and everybody else in this room that it's because of the previous administration's economic policies that Americans were left with record high inflation. Inflation throughout Joe Biden's entire 48 months in office.
CEOs are admitting that Donald Trump is responsible for the price hikes. The biggest issue with Trump's tariffs is that, even if they never take effect, the mere possibility of them causing price increases is already driving prices up. What happens when prices go up? Do you know? They typically stay high. I don't think businesses that are already charging more are justified. Eggs are an outlier due to the bird flu, but other product prices won't decrease, even if they have the ability to increase them by a small margin. That's what we saw during the inflationary period after the pandemic. Supply chain issues weren't the cause of prices continuing to rise a year, 2, or even 3 years later. The real reason is that businesses realized they could slowly increase prices bit by bit, using inflation and the overall rise in prices as an excuse, without anyone really noticing. Blame it all on inflation. But the Trump administration is really driven by greed. The greed of CEOs is to blame. It's the greed of the wealthiest billionaires. It's Trump's greed, as he puts his own interests above those of actual customers. And as Jen Psaki pointed out right here, this is why Trump is so widely disliked.
I mean, you're in the majority, actually. Brand new polling shows that a majority of Americans say the State of the Union is not very strong. A majority of Americans say the cuts to the federal government are doing more harm than good. A majority of Americans say Trump has not paid enough attention to the country's most important problems. And the only president who had a lower approval rating than Donald Trump at this point in their presidency is Donald Trump. Again, you see what's happening. You know what's happening. And you are in the majority. We see that very clearly in the data. And we're also seeing it in communities and town halls all across the country. I mean, look at the greeting Vice President J.D. Vance got in Vermont over the weekend, when citizens crowded the streets carrying signs like "Democracy, not fascism," and my personal favorite, "Go ski in Russia, J.D." And listen to this chorus of boos at Congressman Keith Self's town hall in Texas over the weekend. I mean, that's pretty loud from the people of Texas. And watch this moment from a town hall in Kansas where constituents pressed Senator Roger Marshall so forcefully that he literally just got up and walked out.
We don't have time for everyone to stand up. I do got 2 more commitments today. Appreciate everybody making the drive out, and God bless America. Thank you.
All right.
Tomorrow night will be big. I will tell it like it is. But let me translate that for you real quick. When Trump says he'll tell it like it is, what he really means is that he's going to tell you what his own warped version of what he wants you to believe. I mean, I obviously don't know what's in the speech. I can't entirely predict all the things he's going to talk about at all. But I think it's pretty safe to say that he's going to lie, he's going to exaggerate, he's going to sugarcoat, he's going to say a lot of things that aren't true. As you're watching that and resisting the urge to throw something at the TV, if you do, just make sure it's a soft thing. Just remember that you know what's true. No matter what he says tomorrow, you know what he's already done. You know what you've been seeing with your own eyes. You know how you and your family and your neighbors have been feeling. I mean, you probably felt a little less safe booking that next flight after a series of recent crashes and air disasters, as Trump and Musk continued their quest to gut the FAA. I bet you've heard about the measles outbreak in Texas, killing a child that might be the same age as your kid or your grandkid, as Trump and Musk got the Department of Health and Human Services. You might have seen the news today that for the first time in history, your Social Security checks might not come on time. You've probably gone to the grocery store over the past few weeks and seen that the prices have not actually gone down, but up. And you know that when Trump imposes his tariffs on Canada and Mexico in a few hours, costs will go up even more. If you have money in the stock market, you probably noticed that the markets tanked today after Trump confirmed those tariffs are coming. And I know you saw what happened in the Oval Office on Friday, when Trump berated an ally under attack and sided with a murderous dictator. The point is this, you see what's happening, you know what's happening. And if you spent the last few weeks worrying about what all of this means for you and what this means for the country and your community,
Donald Trump has already declared that this is the most unpopular presidency ever. I guess he just decided to repeat the same mistakes. But now, it's truly time for us to seize this opportunity. The momentum is pushing us forward. Changes are happening because of our drive, and we have the power to hold them accountable, which we will do on this show, day in and day out. As usual, you can click the subscribe button to show your support. Besides liking this video, feel free to drop a blue heart in the comments if you've watched it all the way through. Until next time, I'll see you soon.